Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. Episode number four. Four, yes, sir. Today we have a special guest. You guys might not know him, maybe know him if you guys watched the first episode. Well, it's Mr. Khaalid Hicks. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I'm happy to be back. I heard you guys had some fire episodes since the last time.
Especially episode number, last episode, we had, Khodar and Noor, mashallah, and we had brother Harris Shahid, so we had them. So how you been, man?
I've been good. I've been, alhamdulillah, everything's been looking up. So,
Good. How's work?
Work is looking up as well, alhamdulillah. So, no complaints at all.
No complaints. So last time we touched upon, sports in Islam and how kind of balanced out your work, your school, and your deen at the same time. And it was pretty interesting because you kind of related with guys who wanted to get into a field that they want to get into, but maybe the parents are not they're kind of skeptical about it.
Yeah.
It's not something like a degree getting into I don't know engineering or accounting. So it's pretty cool, pretty nice for you, alhamdulillah. But today you have a special little topic, right? It might concern me, might concern you. I hope it concerns me, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Soon. It's mariage, marriage.
Okay.
Right, alhamdulillah. How long has it been that you're married?
Coming up on 5.5 soon.
5.5 in August. Yeah, by the way, he's taken. Sorry, girls. Sorry, man. You got that. 5.5, mashallah. Yeah. How old are you?
29.
So if you do the math.
Got married at 24.
24, wow. Yeah. How was that experience?
Oh, learning experience for sure.
Learning experience.
Growth. You can't. I think anybody, whether they've been married for 2 years or they've been married for 50 years, is going to tell you that marriage is a process. And it's not always easy, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, for sure. And also you get to kind of learn with the person as well. Like you're 100%. Growing as well, because especially so the topic we're getting into is also marriage, but also like at a young age you got it married. So some people have they get married after 27, 28, after they're done with their studies, or even maybe 30 after they want to enjoy work and all that.
Yeah.
So what were your struggles? What was your mindset kind of like getting into, maybe you said 24,
24,
right?
Yeah.
So school, work and all, like what were you thinking, kind of your process
to get married?
Yeah, to get married. Yeah.
Ooh. I think, like in a sense I like challenges, but for me it was kind of like I can do this. So it was like I can get married at this age. I can still achieve everything that I want to achieve. And in a certain sense, like you can achieve sometimes more with somebody in your corner than you can on your own. You have to be self-sufficient in the sense that you have to be able to get things done on your own.
Yeah.
But like there's just something different when you got that person in your corner, right? So
for sure.
Just as a coach, one of the things I can bring it back to is almost every athlete in the world has a coach.
Yeah.
Right? Almost everybody athlete in the world has somebody that works with them. Even if you think of an individual sport, think of a tennis player. Well, that tennis player works with somebody. That tennis player's got a coach. Even so, not to say that my wife is my coach, but like your wife's got your back, like right? Your partner, exactly. Your partner's your teammate. Your partner's going to help you get to the next level. And like you have to be good enough on your own. But then once you get with the right person, like, woo, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. So for you, again, some people always say, the right person and all that. Like, some people have their own, values and all. So for you, what was the, oh, this is it, this, alhamdulillah, like this is the girl that I want to, make her meet my parents, yada, yada, yada. Like, what made you say, like, I want to take that step with her?
Ooh. Oh, man. It's tough to put into words specifically, but I think you have to know yourself well enough to know when someone can add to you as a person. So it's really tough to pinpoint an exact an exact thing, but
Yeah.
it's just that at a certain point you start to realize you're like, okay, well, yo, this person can make me better,
Better.
and I feel like I'm good,
Mhm.
but I feel like it works with you,
Mhm.
and we can get to the next level and we can make each other better.
Yeah.
So for me, it was really just that sort of feeling that you interact with the person, you meet the person, you find out information by asking friends, asking other people, and
Mhm.
then you just get to that point where you're like, you know what, I feel like this is it. So I think when you know.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, again, can stress about, you're at the edge of 24,
Mhm.
with work, with school and all.
Yeah.
And then people always think, like, our parents, or the older generation always tells us, get settled first,
Mhm.
get money and all that. So how did you kind of, um again, with school, like, did you kind of did you like put in did you like, again, let me rephrase my question again. Like, did you find, like, how did you find that balance between, going to school, spending
Mhm.
time with her, and getting into your work as well, like as a coach?
Oh man, that is the number one struggle
Yeah.
of marriage, especially for us. It was the number one struggle of marriage younger,
Yeah.
right? So for me, it was 24.
Hmm.
Um, I've been in my program for a year. Um, like I had to work hard to get into that program, but I've been in my program for a year. She didn't get into her. She hadn't gotten into the program that she wanted to yet, but she was in school.
Hmm.
Whew. Okay, so I think the first thing is we managed to. Fortunately, we were at that point. I believe we were in the same school.
Hmm.
I think for like a year more, um, and so we managed to sort of use school as a time to spend together, whether it's going to school, whether it's studying together. That was kind of like something that we could do
Hmm.
together.
Hmm.
And the work thing, the work thing's hard,
Yeah.
right? I'm not gonna front. The work thing is hard because when you're both in school, right, you both have to work.
Hmm.
And so you're going to spend less time with each other because you're trying to make it work.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the understanding that you have to have. You have to have that level of communication to say, listen, we're trying to get someplace in life, and we made the decision that we're going to be together now rather than later. So we need to work at it, and we need to make some sacrifices. So we're gonna try and mesh our days off.
Hmm.
We're gonna try and put some time together to be able to make it work. But I mean, that's the hardest part.
Hmm.
I'm not even gonna lie. That is 100% the hardest part is meshing, making everything work together.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. And another thing, like, I can add to that too, like, sometimes, when you kind of want to, again, when you love a person, or even it has to be your sibling or mom, dad, anything, especially if your wife or husband,
Mhm.
if you really love that person, I feel like making time and making that effort to really make time for that person, kind
Mhm.
of, comes, not, it's like, it's just an automatic, like, you're already in my schedule type of thing, right?
Yeah,
Especially when you're married, you got work, school, you got to balance everything out. At the end of the day, you guys kind of have to spend time, right? And then
100%.
you can find, again, studying, that was a good, parenthèse, you can say,
Mhm.
to see each other, right?
One of the things that actually comes to mind, I remember,
Yeah.
is that at some point, just sort of naturally in my studies, I ended up starting to study part time.
Yeah.
But I mean, like we got into it in the first episode, right? As to part of the reason why I studied part time was to
Mhm.
be able to be more successful in my coaching career.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that studying part time sort of freed up a little more time,
Yeah.
right? And then also, I think a major thing is you have to look at your marriage as not an everyday, not a day to day thing, but more of as a year to year thing.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is, well, in the fall and the winter semesters, like we're studying, we're going to work. It's hard. We're not
Yeah.
spending a lot of time together.
Mhm.
But in the summertime, like that's when you try and maximize your time that you're spending
Yeah, for
together,
sure.
right? So in the summertime, we're going on trips, we're going to chalets, we're doing this, we're doing that. We're trying to maximize the time that we get in the summer. And then we know and we're prepared for the fact that, listen, come the winter or come the fall, when school starts, it's going to be a lot harder.
Mm,
So even just for me in the from the working standpoint, it's trying to be able to say, okay, well, listen, I'm gonna back off a little in the summer just
mm.
because my profession allowed me
Yeah.
to be able to do so. But we're gonna back off a little in the summer, and we're gonna spend time together in the summer, and we understand that this is our time and this is what we're
Mm.
gonna maximize. So yeah.
So imagine like me. I'm like 22 now.
Hmm.
Mashallah. I had my birthday last week. Mashallah.
Yeah.
And so if I come up to you and I say like, I'm looking into this girl or whatever, what advice would you give me? Like if I say like, oh, I'm into for the personality, Dean, and all that,
Hmm.
but for me, like sometimes guys tend to forget that it's not only a dunya also, but you got to come into Dean as well,
Hmm.
trying to have that mix.
Yeah.
So what would you tell me?
I'm gonna say you have to understand. You have to have a conversation to really understand what are expectations.
Hmm.
So communication is super important, but expectations are even more important, especially when you're younger. That you guys have to be on the same page of not just what do we want this year, not what do we want next year, but down the line, where do we want to go,
Yeah.
and then work back from there.
It's like with kids, like how are you gonna your values and all that. So if I have maybe I'm more religious than her or she's more religious
Mhm,
than me, the way we raise our children, maybe like I want it this way and she wants it that way, right?
mhm,
So you kind of have to like kind of like you said expectations,
yeah,
right? So you kind of tell her like I'm like this and that, and I want my kids to be raised this way. What do you think about it?
100%.
Right.
So I mean, I feel like everything about me is coaching, but
Yeah.
so Nick Saban has this thing that's the process, right?
Yeah.
And just I don't want to break down completely what the process is, but the idea is you start with the end goal in mind, right? And then you start from the end goal and then you go backwards and say, what do I need to do to get to there? And then what do I need to do to get to this step? And what do I need
Hmm.
to do to get that step? And that brings you all the way to where you would be at. I'm trying to get married. I see this girl, she's
Mm.
interesting, right? So from there, you guys have to have that conversation to say, well, first of all, do we have the same vision for where we want to be in the end? And then afterwards, do we have the same vision or can we talk about how we're going to get there? Because even if you guys have the same end goal, if your expectations are completely different, that's going to make it extremely challenging, especially when you think about the fact that you might have studies, you
Mm.
might have a job, and then you got to spend time together. And then, you have this new life that you're trying to build together and get to
Mm.
know this person. And if you're not on the same page, ooh, that's a big struggle.
Yeah.
That's a really big struggle. So I think that's for sure. You want to know, you kind of want to understand how the person thinks.
Mhm.
But the biggest key, I think this is really the biggest key, is you have to understand yourself.
Mhm.
You 100% have to understand yourself. Because if you don't have a good enough understanding of yourself, you can never expect somebody else to understand you. And you can, like, if you don't know how you react, if you don't know how you feel,
Mhm.
how you think, then it's hard for you then to get somebody else to understand that, but it's hard for you to understand somebody else at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And another question that's pretty interesting. I have, mashallah, a lot of friends who got married at a young age, just like you, or even younger, or even guys who got married at the age of 27, 28, or even above 30, right? And I've seen the tendencies that many of them got, kids right after they got married, like right after. And then my friend was maybe, I think, 22, 23. He got a kid, and I came up to him and asked him, like, you're still in school, you're still working. Now you have a wife, and now you have a baby. All right. So what, like, I didn't say like what's wrong with you, but kind of I asked him like what was going through your mind, you got to know she was pregnant, and then, baby's coming and all that. For you, like, um, how did you how are you going to balance it all? And then he said that, uh um for me, I get to see my kid, a lot. I get to grow with him and all. But then I had this like realization. I'm like, but the thing is, can you kind of provide for that kid after, with the workload that you're getting? And then are you actually going to be there? Because sometimes, I like, I see myself, I'm not that responsible, like, for sure I'm not that mature. And if I get married, get a kid right away, I'm in the same position as him.
Mhm.
He's still working, he's still going to school. I'm like, how do I provide for the family,
Mhm.
right? Did you ever have that thinking, like, guys around your age kind of getting babies pretty young and all that? What do you think about that?
I think that comes back to what's your vision? What's your
Yeah.
end vision, right? So I think sometimes what you have to do is you have to look at, I mean, naturally, there's situations that you cannot control, right?
Mhm.
Ultimately, Allah is the planner, and Allah decides when things happen and when things don't
Yeah,
happen,
exactly.
right? But there's aspects that you can control at the same
Yeah,
time.
for sure.
So I feel like that comes into your communication. That comes into being able to have a good understanding of, listen, this is where we're at,
Mhm.
and how can we make this work, and what is our plan moving forward to make
Yeah.
this work. So the way I see it is, you have to have a plan.
Mhm.
And then after that, Allah will decide if your plan is what He planned or if He had other plans,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But I feel like you have to have a plan.
Mhm.
So for us personally, that was like, well, listen, if we end up in that situation, then that's going to be a even bigger struggle, right? I think my wife will be the first to tell you, like, the the first few years were extremely tough. The first few years are extremely tough because you gotta do your studies, you gotta go to your part-time job, you gotta come home, you gotta spend time with your family, and that's a big struggle, man.
Mhm.
That is huge, in the sense that, like, you have to think about somebody else in addition to everything that you have to think about. University studies are already hard.
Mhm.
Working is already hard.
Mhm.
But now when you have to think about, you have to work to pay the bills, to pay the rent, to buy the food, then you got to make your wife or your partner happy. And then on top of that, you got to do well in school
Mhm.
because of your long term vision, right?
Mhm.
Your long term vision is that we're not going to be in school for forever. We're not going to be working this part time job at who knows where we're going to do it. We're not going to do that forever. We have to get out of this situation. So I think, like, honestly, for me, the key thing for me when we got married younger is that it was all about, listen, like, we're trying to create a halal situation here, and we can do this. We can make it work, but we got to work together in order to get there.
Yeah.
And so for us, the way we work together in order to get there is all about the vision we had for our relationship, the vision we have for our lives down the road, and understanding that everything we do is working towards that specific vision.
Yeah. Like you said, also, like, I ask another question. You said that the marriages should, like, when you're in a long-term relationship, again, when you're married to the person, you can look at it, weekly or daily or even monthly, right? It's
Mm.
your yearly. So what would you tell yourself now, after 5.5 years, to yourself when you were 24?
Mm. Ooh. Um, I think what I would tell myself probably is to invest a little more in yourself, um, and that it's actually healthier for your couple,
Yeah.
for your relationship.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm guilty of, and I think every person that gets married is guilty of, especially the men, 100% the men, from what I've seen in my entourage, from what we see generally in the community, is that you get married, your boy gets married, and then your boy disappears. You don't see your boy ever again. Man
Mhm.
disappears, he shows up 5, 6 years later, and you're like, oh, hey, what's up? Right? So you get married, your boy can't show up to this, your boy can't show up to that. The wifey this, the wifey that, I gotta work, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And all of that's true.
Yeah.
All of that's true. But for the health of your relationship, and for the health of you as an individual, I found that it's extremely important to continue being who you are. So while you have a vision with your wife and you guys are working towards that vision, and now you have a joint identity, it's important to remember that being joint also involves being two separate individuals.
Mhm.
So I feel like while you have to adapt certain things that you do, like for me personally, it used to be I'm gonna go hang out for 2 hours at the gym. I'm gonna go hang out with the boys for 3 hours. I'm gonna go hang out with the squad at Tim Hortons until 2 a.m. I'm gonna go hang out at this boy's house until 1 a.m. and that kind of stuff. Like you can't do that every day of the week
Mhm.
when you're married because you have to understand that you are an individual, but you are also together as a joint entity.
Mhm.
So I feel like finding a balance. You got to look to find a balance because often what we do is we get married and we only see the joint entity and we try and shift completely to the joint entity and we forget ourselves.
Mhm.
And then later on, we start to feel resentment or we start to feel like confused. We sort of have this identity crisis where at a certain point, you turn around, you look in the mirror and you're like, I don't know who I am anymore.
Mhm.
Like everything I used to love to do, I don't do.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what I if I had to talk to the younger me or I had to talk to somebody that's 24 that's about to go into this, I'm gonna say, listen, you have to invest in your marriage 100%, but you also have to find a way to remain who you are, find a way to continue to do what you like to do. Don't ditch your friends, don't
Yeah.
ditch your boys. Keep that,
Mhm.
but make it work
Yeah.
in your relationship as well.
Like I said, I always say that with mental health and all that, sometimes you need that that alone time. Sometimes you need to go work out. Sometimes you need to that alone time. Again,
Mhm,
like I said, it's like with me, I always I work with my parents. I work around people, and our house we're a healthy amount of people as well.
mhm,
But sometimes I want to go in my on a walk alone. I want to
mhm,
be in my room alone and just think about life. Reflect and all that. And it's fine to be selfish. It's fine to be selfish with your time, sometimes with yourself, right?
mhm,
Even with a partner, you got that partner. I kind of has to respect the fact that look, I want to I just want my time alone right now. I just want to think about life in general. So a lot of people tend to don't do that for the first year, maybe like you said. They're get again. I can't blame them. I might do my. I hope I don't, but I might do the same thing as well, right?
just
Because you're
tempting, man.
yeah, it's tempting because you love this person. It's a new thing. It's a new love because you chose to be with this person. It's
Yeah.
not your mom. It's not your dad. It's not your
Mhm,
siblings, your cousins, and all that. This person, you're like, I'm willingly to. I want to stay with you. This is how I live. Like like it's fine to like be cool at home. Chilling with your siblings, wearing pajamas and all that. But like being in that comfort zone with a stranger,
mhm,
right? It's two completely different things. So that's why I always say like it's cool to be selfish. Be selfish with your time, even with your parents and all that. Tell your daddy, look, get some parents will like spend time with me and all that. That's another thing. Like it's not like you're outside 23 hours a day and then
yeah.
that 1 hour, you're like, I want to be selfish. No, that's you already got that 23 hours. So spend time with your parents. Again, shout out to all the parents, mashallah. But again, like I said, it's okay to be selfish. And like for you, what was your thing? Kind of like you're spending time with her.
Yeah.
Yes. What was your uh your escape? What was your yeah? Again, what
Oh
was your
man.
escape?
Took me a while. It took me a while to figure it out. Um,
And that's fine,
it
right?
it
Yeah,
is.
that's fine.
It
Yeah.
is. It took me a while to figure it out. And that's part of the adaptation, right? Because you're so used to what you did, and then you got to shift because you're trying to build something. Um, I mean, like now for me, a lot of it is video games.
Mhm.
It might be self personal development. So it can be listening to podcasts. It can be just watching videos that are on personal development. Sometimes it'll be just being outdoors. It'll be going for a walk.
Mhm.
Um, that's sort of what it is now. And
Mhm.
the thing is that you have to be able to find that balance. You have to find that balance between being yourself and being a couple. um because you're not just a couple. That's the key. So yeah, for me that's what it was. For my wife, I don't know, but she has it,
Yeah.
right? She has it. So actually, for her now, it's video games too, which is pretty cool. Um, so she has her games, and I got my games, which is nice.
Mm,
So for her, it's video games too. It might be chilling with her friends. It might be reading a book. It might be drawing. But I feel that's a key. You got to be able to have something that's yours. Um, and for some guys, it's they go golfing, right?
mm,
And so they go golfing with their boys once a week.
mm,
And I feel like that makes you a better in your couple when
mm.
you're whole as an individual.
Yeah. Like I see it in my parents too. Like, my mom and dad, they work together and all. But my dad has his Fridays, my mom has her Saturdays.
Mhm,
Like older I got, I saw them, have an understanding. Look, I'm with you all week, fine, but on Friday, don't call me, don't text me, don't
mhm,
don't even WhatsApp me anything. This is my time, right? And they respect that from each other, right? So you see it now they're together for what 23 years now.
yeah,
Again, like you see, it's kind of with experience, and some people think that they won't find that in the first year. They might not find it in the second year, maybe in the third. Some people think that, oh, it's not working out. After listening to the podcast, maybe it's their first year and they say that, oh, what am I doing?
mhm.
And now they're like, okay, I'm done with this person. No,
No.
work it out with them,
The most important thing is the communication,
Yeah.
because you can't just decide that you're going to spend time on you.
Mhm.
You can't just decide to do that, right? You have to be able, and I feel like it's really important that you have that discussion before you get married, because if you want to have a healthy marriage, it's important. Or if you're already married, that you guys have to be able to sit down and have that discussion and say, listen, this is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like, I'm trapped. I'm feeling like I don't have an identity, or I'm feeling like I don't do what I used to do anymore.
Mhm.
But to be able to have that discussion, because otherwise the person might feel like, hey, what's going on? You just upped and left on Friday, and you spent out, you're out all day. You didn't talk to me. So it's important to have that discussion. That, listen, I feel like we need to also invest in ourselves so that we can just refresh, we can rejuvenate, and then we can come back refreshed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes some people think that just not talking to them will make a difference. Like if you don't have that communication, like again, even in friendships, right? Some people think that just me being mad at that person and just not talking, not facing up to what's happening, like it's kind of toxic. So that's why I feel like like I have mashallah good friends and all. We get into arguments. It's normal. Like if you don't get into arguments, there's no way that it's not a healthy relationship. Like
Mhm,
I said, right? And it's like we always have yeah, we'll fight, and then maybe 30 minutes later we're like, what we did wrong, we
mhm.
call each other out, and that's it, khalas. But what's next, right? Yeah, like we have that relationship. Some people take days, hours, or whatever, right? So that's why, like, I think I don't know if you can like agree with me better, like really having that conversation again, like it's better than having just no conversation at all.
100%.
Yeah.
Communication is so
Yeah.
important. So, but then I feel like it's also understanding when to communicate. So, for example, you have to. That's why I'm saying part of it is you have to understand yourself, but you
Mhm.
also have to be able to understand your partner. So if you know that when you're upset, when you're hot, that you go off,
Mhm.
well then you got to know that, and you got to be like, listen, let's come back and let's talk about this in an hour,
Mhm.
right? You got to be able to do that. You got to be able to avoid situations that are just gonna blow up, but
Mhm.
you have to be able to communicate that. That be like, okay, well, listen, we have if you feel like something's up, we got to talk about it. If I feel like something's up, we got to talk about it. Some couples, I know couples that have like weekly checkups. So
Mhm.
every week they sit down and they set a time, that they're gonna sit down, they're gonna talk about how they feel the relationship's going. Some people work like that, some people don't work like that. Some
Mhm.
people just like, okay, looking like we just gotta be able to communicate how we're feeling
Mhm.
and not be shy, not let it bottle up, and then 3 months later you hit me with the 10 things that I did last month that I
Mhm.
did in
The
the
last
last
three
3 months
months, yeah.
that annoyed you, and then it's just bam, 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 and I'm like,
You're like,
whoa.
I did that?
You
Yeah, you
know,
did. Oh, really? Yeah, my bad.
it's like, let me know, but either like if you know that you got to know yourself, right? You have
Mhm.
to know yourself. You also have to know how your other partner is going to respond.
Mhm.
To know, do you tell them right away? How you go about it? But
It's like a tendency, right? It's like you should get like I know you're. Imagine I've been knowing you for the last 8 years and all. Kind of know what your order, what do you like to eat. Like I know today we're eating pizza. He said I don't like sauce. The
mm,
next time I know like I won't bring extra sauce. You know, like
Right.
I'm mad sauce. Same thing for Abiaz. Abiaz now I know like every time I bring food for him, I'm like, yo, I know no sauce on the side. You know,
You see?
it's kind of like that. You know, you know get to know the person like
Yeah.
that. So it's like you know when he's mad, you know, or she's mad, you know, don't be up in their face. You know, like
So
you know that's gonna create fire. And
exactly.
again, you think I won't say it's a sin because you
Yeah.
know you're not, but you're kind of creating like an argument, right? If someone argues, it's again like I don't know the hadith, you know, like the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Abu Bakr were sitting down, and then the people of Quraysh came up and they're starting, you know, cussing the Prophet, cussing Abu Bakr's, you know, family, his mother, his sister. He didn't say anything, right? Yeah, you know, kept quiet and all. And then when they started insulting the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that's when he got up and he got mad. And right away, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam got up and he left,
Mhm.
right? And then Abu Bakr ran to him. He's like, "What happened? What happened?" He's like, "Oh, I don't sit with Shaitan,
Mhm.
and Shaitan is there when you know when there's an argument happening, right?" So when I heard that, and then now I try to avoid arguments
Mhm.
like completely. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
And imagine like the communication thing.
Yeah.
Imagine if Abiaz and I never said that we don't do sauce on our chicken wings. So now imagine if every time you bring sauce
Yeah.
and you bring chicken wings and you think to bring us sauce and chicken wings and we sit down and we eat the chicken wings and we don't touch the sauce. And every time you make an effort and you're like, eventually you're gonna start feeling like, yo, what's wrong with these guys? They don't like my sauce. Like I
Yeah.
tried really hard. I tried to bring them the best sauces.
Mm.
I asked the guy, what's your favorite sauce? And I brought it. And I asked them, I said, no, they didn't touch that one. Bring me another sauce.
Yeah.
And so you keep making all this effort.
Yeah.
And we just sit there and we never tell you, like, hey man, thanks for the sauce. But you know, we don't really do sauce. Like imagine that's communication is key.
True, true, true. Yeah, shout out to that Jabin's cuisine sauce, yo. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
bro.
yeah, Jabin sauce. Oh yeah, that's nice.
Sheesh.
Good sauce.
Yeah, but he doesn't eat it though. He
Which
doesn't eat it. He doesn't even touch
which
it.
one does he not eat?
All of it.
All of it?
All of it. He doesn't touch it, bro.
Bro, there's 3 sauces.
All three of them, he doesn't touch it, bro.
Oh, you can't go over 3 on the sauce.
No, 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 no. Over 3, man.
You can't go over 3.
Man.
My all-time favorite is the red one. But
Tamarind sauce, yeah.
yeah, the
But your
tamarind.
mom makes crazy tamarind sauce.
Oh
Yeah, your mom makes
mhm.
yeah, yeah. Shout out to Auntie, man. It's
Shout out my
crazy.
mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, so nah, you can't go over 3 on the sauce.
It's like Ben Simmons in the playoffs. Well, and again, I want to apologize. Episode 1, I think I called out Carey Price. I think he watched the episode, and you know he went on a clinic. Man, shout out to Habs in the finals. I don't know when this podcast is about to drop. Game 1's in about 2-3 days. So inshallah, go Habs, go.
You know what I think is really interesting about
Yeah.
the marriage at 24, right? She was 20.
Mhm.
Is that usually typically your personality doesn't form until the age of 26 when your personality is at its final
Mhm.
shape, right?
Mhm.
Your final mold of your personality of who you are. So what I think is really awesome about that is that it's an opportunity for you guys to grow together,
Mhm.
but also to experience new things that you might not necessarily try, because I mean you have to be open, right? And when you're younger, you're in school,
Mhm.
you're working, you're trying to make it work. Like you take whatever opportunities you get to hang out with the person.
Yeah.
So I've tried things I would never try ordinarily.
Snowboard.
Yeah, for example. But I mean, I did some skiing. But I didn't think I would be like as serious as I am.
Yeah.
But even like my wife with sports, like my wife will sit down and we've watched March Madness. We've made a bracket with March Madness that I'll have her
That's
fill out a
cool.
bracket, and that's how we're competing.
Yeah.
We've done the NFL playoff bracket.
Yeah.
So she'll sit down and watch playoff games with me, and
Mhm.
she'll fill out a bracket with me.
Mhm.
Sports, hockey, like she's
Mhm.
watching the Habs games with me,
Yeah.
and she's into it, and that's like a key. I feel like is just that being able to get that appreciation together, and being able to grow from that. I feel like that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And another thing I want to add, shout out to all the wives and moms and even sisters. Sometimes they support you, while you're watching hockey, sports, and anything. They watch you with you, but bro, you gotta make time for what she likes as well,
Mhm.
right? You gotta, I don't know, watch that movie that you don't want to watch. You watch it, like that's also like a thing, Not
Mhm.
only every time they can't always make the sacrifice, right?
100%.
So,
100%.
yeah.
You have to have balance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't really work, right? If the person's always doing what you want to do and you're never doing what they want to do, that's balance,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Best example of balance. Okay. So sometimes I'll go and I'll play a sport with my wife, right? So
Mhm.
like recently we've been into playing tennis.
Mhm.
And when it comes to drinking water, okay, might sound ridiculous for some people, but when it comes to drinking water, in the summertime, I like my water ice cold. Like I need the frost on the side of the glass. You know what
Yeah,
the
yeah,
condensation on the side of the glass. That's
yeah.
how I like my water. She likes her water cold from the tap. So we know in the summertime, cold water from the tap ain't really all that cold,
Yeah,
but
it's not
that's
that
how she
cool.
likes her water, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a huge difference. Like that's a drastic difference because if she brings me cold water from the tap and I'm drinking it, I'm like, what is this? Okay. But when I bring her ice cold water from the fridge, she's drinking it and she's going, what is this?
Yeah.
So, what would you have to do when you're going to play tennis together and you're bringing one water bottle? How would you do it?
Gotta do it her way, man.
That's
That's
what you
what
would do?
I would do that.
You would
Yeah.
do it her way?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. I'm a guy like that. I don't know if I'd be asking like relate, but anything like I'm yeah no not a simp like anything like even with my friends
Mhm.
if I know that they like it this way and I don't like it but I'll do it their way right to see like I'm down to I have that ego to like be like yo I don't need to I can compromise
I
like
feel you on that. I think I would have done that
yeah
at the start of at the start,
like
like in the
that's
first
different
two
because you guys
years.
are like together for
But
like a long time
now I can't put my foot down because I did it one time. Oh my god. Okay, so
yeah
one time I put ice in a water bottle. I took fridge cold water, and my thinking is, hey, we're going outside. It's hot outside. In an hour, it's gonna be like ice, like cold tap water.
yeah
Bro, she saw the ice floating. She was mad. And so what she did a few days later is she took my glass and she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna get you some water." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And she goes and fills it with tap cold water
oh
and brings
my
it to me to go,
god
huh? You see?
yeah
So now what I do, I fill it half half.
that's just seem
No, it ain't.
what
I fill
what
it half half.
what
It sounds ridiculous, I know,
Hmm.
but it's like that's just the way I'm thinking. It's like, okay, so you know what? I like my water ice cold. You like your water tap cold. I'm
Mhm.
gonna take the bottle. I'm gonna go half tap cold, half ice cold, and now we have a temperature that's somewhere in the middle, and we're both happy.
Does that actually work?
It works. You can complain, man.
But does that make a difference for you? Like, do you feel like you drink like,
100%.
bro? It's
But that's
like
part of being married.
that's like tap water right there. No, it's not. There's no ice. Like there is ice, right? Is there ice?
I don't put the ice because if I put the ice, then she sees the ice cold. Then
Yeah,
mind games. But
but she wins, bro. She wins there, man.
I guess, but like
Yeah.
it's just like that's part of like it's an extreme example of the balance that you're talking
Mm.
about. But that's kind of like how you have to be able to balance is you got to be able to think about yourselves as individuals, but also yourselves as a whole. So if my wife spends time watching hockey with me, then I'm gonna spend time doing something else that she likes. It might
Yeah.
not be watching like whatever show, but something.
Yeah. And I want another thing I want to ask. How healthy is it in a relationship to maybe try new things? Like you, like I know I've seen you grow for the last 8 9 years. We know
Hmm.
each other personally. I've seen you going from a guy who's like hell no, I'm never skateboarding type of guy to like snowboarding,
Hmm.
right? So what made you again? Yeah, obviously that helps with her. Right? You guys are both I know you guys personally as well like you guys like to try new things,
Hmm.
right? So how healthy is that to like to
Oh
again
man,
try new things?
I think that's the best thing because one of the one of the things about just human nature is you like to stay inside your comfort zone.
Hmm.
So I feel like, alhamdulillah, we're both people that, in a certain sense and in certain things, we're opposites.
Hmm.
And so we kind of have to push each other outside of our comfort zones.
Hmm.
Like, I don't do roller coasters, but she loves roller
Yeah,
coasters,
I can't do roller coasters,
right?
bro.
So, but like, like I did it. I didn't love it, but I
Bold.
might do it again. That's what I told her. I said
Yo,
I might have to do it again,
you're bold, fam.
But stuff like that, or the adventure part of like, oh, we're gonna go snowboard or we're gonna do stuff that we wouldn't usually do. Like I don't do hikes. Like
Hmm.
I'm not a hiker, but one of the things that she likes to do is she likes the outdoors. So, but she'll push me outside of my comfort zone. Like we went on vacation last year, and bro, she had me do this hike. It kicked my butt. Oh my god! But the view at the top.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, you kind of forget all the hard work, going up and all that.
100%.
You
And
just, yeah.
if she didn't push me to do that, I wouldn't have done it.
It's like,
I
again,
got to get you guys some pictures actually to
yeah,
throw in there to see that view at the top. Forillon National Park.
yeah,
If anyone goes to the Gaspé region, I 100% recommend you do
Yeah.
it. But if like, I feel like it's just one literal physical example
Mhm.
that trip, that hike, an hour and a half up, like an hour and a half up, crazy elevation. I want to say I hated it the whole way.
yeah,
Right? As we were showing up in the parking lot, I'm like, oh my God, I
yeah,
do not want to do this. Ya Allah, why did I let this woman talk me into doing
yeah.
this? And then I'm doing it and I'm doing it and I know she's happy. And
Mm,
she's pushing me outside of my comfort zone because I don't like doing this stuff. It's hard, it's physical. I
mm.
don't like to just suffer for
For
for the sake
fun,
of suffering.
yeah.
And then I get to the top and I'm like, oh man, I would have missed this if I didn't
But you kind of forget, the hard, not even
well, I'm
kind
huffing
of
and puffing on
appreciate.
top, but
Yeah, you appreciate, right?
yeah.
Isn't that like marriage? Isn't that like you're struggling to wait
Mhm.
up to the top, and
Yep.
then when you get there, you're like you enjoy the view, kind of it's beautiful,
Mhm.
and then but you don't forget the struggles, right? You
Alhamdulillah,
kind of learn from,
the thing
right?
I think about marriage is that I don't know if there ever is a top.
Yeah.
I think you're constantly climbing,
Mhm.
but what I think happens is that you become more endurant as you climb.
Mhm.
And as you climb, you become more endurant. And so it's kind of like I think it's like climbing a hill. I think at the start, it's like climbing a very long hill or running a very long marathon. The first few kilometers are tough. You're like, what have I gotten myself
Mhm,
into?
yeah.
And then after that, you get used to it.
It's like the first time working out. Your first time you're going on the jog, right?
Mhm.
You're huffing, you're puffing, your
Yeah.
lungs are killing you. Second day, same thing. There's
Mhm.
no difference between the first day and the second day.
Yeah.
Or maybe a week, 2 weeks. That's when you get to get in the groove, right? So like it's like that. So some people think the first year, okay, it's a bit hard. Okay, the second year for sure it's gonna be fine.
Mhm.
Maybe not. Maybe the second year might be even worse than the first year, right? And then second, third, fourth,
Yeah.
fifth year, you kind of get used
Yeah.
to it.
I don't think you ever get to, but that's the thing. Like I think the top is not something you reach. I think you have to mentally always aspire to continue to climb, right? To continue to try and you still have to try and impress your wife 5 years later. You still have to try and impress your wife 10 years later. Your parents have been married forever. I'm sure your dad still tries to do stuff to make your mom happy that she's like, wow, he's never done this before.
It's the flowers, bro. Every time he gets flowers, I'm like, Mom, you see how romantic he is? She's like, oh, he never does this. I'm like, he does it every year, right? But the
Right?
thing is that him doing it,
Mhm.
for sure, that she doesn't show appreciation, out there, but inside, bro, trust, she feels it. It's again like strict dads, right? I do my best to like get the best grade or no grades, Let's not talk about grades. Maybe to get, I'll make that effort to go pray Fajr, to make that effort to go pray Maghrib, but come back home. Dad, I went to go pray Fajr. He looks at me. Good. Okay. Then he walks away, right?
Mm.
Maybe he might appreciate it inside, right?
Mm.
But again, you guys always, like maybe you can give tips again, like um it's complicated sometimes how to make that person happy, or maybe that they won't show it by
Mm.
emotion, or maybe they appreciate it, inside. Right?
I think showing, especially at the start of the marriage,
Yeah.
I think the not showing is a little more old school.
Yeah.
Um,
That's our
I feel
parents.
like I feel like
Yeah.
the the older people can get away with this.
Mhm.
I feel like for us, especially, I don't know if I can call myself young anymore, but I feel like for us, we need to be able to show that gratification. So
Mhm.
I feel like I see it saying thank you to your wife makes a huge difference.
Mhm.
Just or when you do something for your wife and your wife tells you thank you, she appreciates it. I think that's really important. Um, I can't remember exactly, but I think my wife may have done stuff that I just didn't say thank you for, but I appreciated it. And then she stopped doing it. And then afterwards, I was like, yo,
Ich speak.
you used to do this? She's like, well, you never said thank you. I didn't know you appreciated it. And I was like,
Oh
ooh, good
wow.
point. So I feel like that's important now. So that's if there's something we don't take from our parents, it's
Yeah.
gonna be that. Like make sure you're giving words of affirmation. Make sure you're saying thank you. And okay. You have to understand the other person's love language.
Mm.
So if if the listeners don't know what love languages are, they need to go and look them up because there's 5 love languages. I do not remember them all off the top of my head, but some of them, for example, is quality time. Right. So
Mhm.
let's say I'm not gonna. I'm sure if I try and get them all, I'm gonna miss them. But I'm just gonna give like 2 examples. Right. There's quality time. I'm gonna give 3: quality time, words of affirmation, and gifts. And then there's 2 others that I don't remember. Um, but everybody has a different love language.
Mhm.
So, for example, for one person, it might be quality time, and for the other person, it might be gifts.
Mhm.
You have to speak their love language, not yours.
Mhm.
Because if you like quality time, you can't assume your wife likes quality time. Just like I like ice cold water, I can't assume she likes ice cold water. I have to speak her language.
Mhm.
So if she likes gifts, then I have to, bring flowers, bring this, bring that. Just I have to speak her language,
Mhm.
and at the same time, we have to try and understand the other person's language because
Mhm.
if I'm trying to speak to you, but you don't understand the language, the conversation is not going to go very far.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
love languages, listeners, huge, huge
Mhm.
game changer. And there's quizzes you can do online where you answer a few questions. It's like a personality test, but you answer a few questions and then you understand that person's love language. And usually each person has like 2 or 3 and they're ranked from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
And you got to understand that. So for some people, it's not words of affirmation,
Mhm.
right? Some people
Mhm.
don't need you to say thank
Yeah.
you. Acts of service is another one. And now I'm only missing one. Let's see if I can get that by the end of the podcast. So I have quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, missing one. Let's see. Next question.
Yeah, he's a character, guys. He's a character. I remember once I think we were I was trying to learn how to like drive standard one day, and we took my dad's Volkswagen, and yo, that car was pretty cool. That was a pretty sick
Mm-hmm.
car. And then we brought it to Saint Bruno, the Saint Bruno
In
Mall
the
parking
parking
lot.
lot. Yeah.
And then I was new, but this guy was like, downshare this, that, that. He was like explaining me everything, and just went through my head. I was like, what in
Yeah.
the world? And then again, yeah, he's pretty detailed. He loves his details, man. He's
Detail oriented for
detail
sure.
oriented and everything,
For sure. And I think that's a key, right? Is being
Yeah.
able to understand. Oh man, marriage is such a it's so complex that when you start to peel back the layers, you realize that there's even more underneath that. But you
Yeah.
got to understand sort of how your partner's mind works, and that helps you to be able to interact better.
Mhm.
So I'm detail oriented, but I know that my wife is not detail oriented, for
Mhm.
example. She's visual. So if I'm trying to describe something to her, it's not going to work. I got to show her. But
Mhm.
just because I'm detail oriented, I can't sit down and tell her all the intricacies of driving manual with all the minute details. Like she's just like, yo, just I want to move the car, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like save your detail oriented for something else.
Later, yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so it's complex.
Yeah.
It's complex, but I mean, alhamdulillah, it's such an enjoyable experience
Mhm.
because you work on yourself
Mhm.
and you learn to work with other people.
Mhm.
And I think, I mean, alhamdulillah, if you can make a marriage work, you can work with anybody
Yeah.
in the world, man. Because when you spend so much time with somebody, you get to see all the flaws, you get to
Yeah.
see all the good things, you get to learn what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah. How they react to this, to that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, another question that's pretty interesting. You have goals, right? Individual goals, and you have goals that you guys would do together as a couple,
Hmm.
right? What little again, your goal was, getting into coaching and all that,
Hmm.
right? Um, what like what kind of support did you need from her, or what do you think that that's important to to help your spouse to getting to that goal?
Mm.
Like what? Yeah, again, yeah.
Mm.
What do you think?
I think you need your number one fan.
Yeah.
I think I think what's important is it's important not to project your goals on somebody else.
Mhm.
But I think that person needs to be your number one fan. So if when I decided to start coaching, my wife wasn't like, "Yeah, do it, you can do it," and
Mm,
she put doubt in my mind, I probably would not be where I am. I, I remember having this conversation with some coaches where they asked me what was my favorite championship, the first one or the second one,
mm,
right? And I told them the first one, and it was the first one because she believed in me enough to say, "Go take that risk,
mm,
go take that job, and go do well."
mm,
Right. So for me, that's the first one, and the fact that she was there. So I feel like that's the key, is that you have to have, like, your wife's got to be your best friend. She's got to be your number one supporter. Your partner's got to be your best friend, your number one supporter, but they also have to be your harshest critic.
mhm,
So you can't sugarcoat it, right? You have to be like, and that's I feel like that's one of the keys, and that's why communication is important. But it's like, listen, if my wife tells me that she wants to do something, I'm gonna say, okay, you know what? You want to do this? I believe you can do this.
mhm.
I'm gonna be real with her, But like, what I mean is, like,
Oh,
you don't want to.
jeez.
What I mean is, you don't want to, like,
Again, the dreams have to be, like the
attainable, real. You know
attainable.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying? But
yeah,
you have
for
to,
sure.
right? But it's like, okay, but you know what? If we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna help you get there, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna support you as you get there.
Mm,
But if I see you slacking off, I'm gonna tell you, hey, you said you're gonna do this, and right now, that's not the way you're headed.
yeah.
And that's the same way I need her to be with me. So I need her to be like, listen, man, you said you were gonna coach. You said you were gonna be a good coach. Now you got to go out and you got to do it,
Mhm,
right? So if I'm losing games, if I'm slacking off, if my guys are not performing the way they should be,
mhm,
like, she's got to tell me, yo, coach, you got to fix that
mhm,
team,
mhm.
right? And I like that. I like that sort of pressure, but that's how I feel like goals are. I feel like your partner becomes your coach. They become your number one cheerleader. They become your number one critic. They let you know what's up. I remember Kobe Bryant's wife would get mad if he lost,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
crazy.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing that, like, we don't do losing. So
yeah,
that's the way I think about goals. I feel like, you gotta have that support.
yeah. Well, I got another question. It's pretty
Mhm.
interesting as well. It's with goals. Um, so some people kind of like depend on their partner. They have to support me, or either way, or not. I'm not gonna do it. How is
Mm,
that mentality?
mm, mhm. I think you can't expect. I think you can't expect them to support you,
Mhm,
right? At the same time, I feel like being a good partner, you can't knock them down. You understand
exactly.
what I'm saying?
Not knocking them down,
But
but like you kind of
you
some
can't expect
people,
them to want it for you.
yeah, dependent on them, meaning
Mhm.
that like without this person I can't do it. Like
Yeah.
fine, as a victory speech, like without this person,
Mhm.
yada yada yada. Maybe you had that goal, and that person kind of elevated you,
Yes.
right? So some people tend to forget that again, stop depending on people
Mhm.
when you want to do
Correct.
something, right?
Y
Because people might be busy in their lives as well. Like
Yes.
it's your goal, bro,
Yeah.
right?
100%. So that's the
Exactly.
thing. Like, you can't depend on your partner to push you to get to where you wanna go.
Yeah.
But you can expect your partner to be like, "Hey, you know what? I got you. You
Yeah.
wanna do this? I got you. Imma encourage you. Imma keep you motivated." But you can't expect them to make you wake up in the morning to do what you wanna do.
Mhm.
That's gotta come from you.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. You can hope that they're gonna check you on it and be like, "Hey, man, you've been sleeping in, but you said you wanted to." You can hope that they're gonna check you on it, but not everybody's gonna do that.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel I can't depend on my wife for my success,
Mhm.
right? I really can't. I can't depend on anybody for my
Anybody, yeah.
success other than myself.
Yeah, for sure. Like when I was trying to get into, even football, even waking up for Fajr, right? In the beginning, I'm like, yo, mom, I texted my mom before going to sleep. Mom, wake me up for Fajr.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah, she wake you up once, twice. But every time she woke me up, she's like, you better do it by yourself next time, right? I'm not always gonna be there to wake
Yeah.
you up and all. That kind of got into my head, and slowly, slowly, I didn't need her anymore, right?
Mhm.
Again, she helped me out. It's not like I don't need her anymore.
Mhm.
Like, khalas, I'm not talking to you. You gotta appreciate their help as well. Some people like kind of like they get through their goal, they did it and all, and then boom, they forget their spouse
For sure.
sometimes, right? So
Yeah. It's like, it's my goal. It's not yours,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
If you got to do everything for me, that's your
Mhm,
goal.
mhm.
That's not my goal, right?
Yeah.
So it's my goal. It's not yours. But it's at the same time, it's like, don't knock me down and tell me I suck all the time, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Unless you know it's gonna motivate me
Yeah.
to
It's
elevate.
a, like, imagine your spouse has a business or a side business and
Yeah.
all that. You help her out without, getting paid because, again, you guys, it's your money,
Mhm.
right? And then at the end of the day, if it's doing good, she's happy, you're happy. That's the ultimate goal,
Yeah.
right? If she's sad, you're sad, bro. Like, she kind of appreciates, or he or she kind of appreciates, when you come back home, you had a great day, man,
Mhm.
right? Maybe you got a raise, or the boss said good job to you. You met the company's owner and he said, I'm proud of you and all that, give you an opportunity or something. You come back home, she had a horrible day, right?
Mhm.
She appreciates you kind of, or he or she appreciates kind of saying that, yeah, what's up? What happened with you? Like,
Mhm.
don't forget my day. What happened with your day? Kind of listening, right?
Yeah.
How important is it to listen in a, in
Oh
a, in
man,
a, in a relationship?
this thing's huge. I feel like it's like with any conversation, with any interaction, if you're only listening, if you're only talking and you're not listening, that doesn't really work very well, right? You got to be able to listen as much as you talk. You got to be able to interact, but it comes back to the communication. Like you have to be able to effectively
Mhm.
communicate. Um, yeah, this
Yeah,
thing's huge.
yeah, mashallah, man. Anyways, I think we got Maghrib's about to start. You guys hear it right now. Adhan's about to start. And yeah, the podcasts are taken inside the mosque. And inshallah, we'll wrap it up with, Khaalid Hicks, Coach Khaalid Hicks. Thank you very much, for passing by and giving your time and your experience in marriage. And inshallah, we will see you next time on Voices of Umma Talk. Umma Talk. Assalamu alaikum, guys. Take care.